Once upon a time, in a kingdom surrounded by green forests and snowy mountains, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. She was born to a kind and loving queen who had wished for a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as a rose, and hair as black as ebony. Sadly, not long after Snow White was born, her mother passed away. Years later, the king married another woman. The new queen was very beautiful, but she was also proud, selfish, and incredibly jealous. Every morning, the queen stood before her magical mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror always replied, "You are the fairest of them all, my queen." Hearing those words made the queen smile with pride. But as Snow White grew older, she became more beautiful with every passing year. One day, when the queen asked her usual question, the mirror answered, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." Those words filled the queen's heart with anger and jealousy. She could not bear the thought that anyone was more beautiful than she was. Determined to get rid of Snow White forever, the queen ordered a loyal huntsman to take the princess deep into the forest and kill her. She even demanded that he bring back Snow White's heart as proof. The huntsman obeyed the queen's order and led Snow White into the dark woods. But when he saw the innocent princess crying and begging for mercy, his heart melted. He simply could not kill such a kind and gentle girl. Instead, he told her to run as far away as she could and never return to the castle. To fool the queen, he brought back the heart of a wild animal instead. Snow White ran through the thick forest, frightened and alone. The trees seemed endless, and strange sounds echoed around her. She stumbled over rocks, crossed little streams, and wandered until the sun began to set. Just when she thought she could go no farther, she discovered a tiny cottage hidden among the trees. It looked small but welcoming. Inside the cottage, everything was tiny. There were 7 little chairs around a table, 7 small bowls, 7 tiny cups, and 7 little beds. Snow White was exhausted and very hungry. She tasted a little food from each bowl so that she would not take too much from anyone. Then she lay down across the little beds and quickly fell asleep. That evening, the owners of the cottage returned home. They were 7 dwarfs who worked in the mountains, digging for precious jewels. At first, they were surprised to find someone sleeping in their home. But when Snow White woke up and tearfully told them her story, the dwarfs felt sorry for her. They welcomed her into their home and promised to protect her. In return, Snow White happily cleaned the cottage, cooked delicious meals, and filled their little home with warmth and laughter. Life in the forest was peaceful. Every morning, before leaving for work, the dwarfs warned Snow White, "Never open the door for strangers. The evil queen may still be searching for you." Snow White promised she would be careful. Back at the castle, the queen once again stood before her magical mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" she asked confidently. But the mirror replied, "Snow White is still alive, living safely with the 7 dwarfs in the forest." The queen was furious. She decided that if others could not kill Snow White, she would do it herself. Disguising herself as an old peddler woman, the queen traveled into the forest carrying beautiful ribbons. When she reached the cottage, she called out, "Lovely ribbons for sale." Snow White remembered the dwarfs, warning and refused to open the door. But the old woman spoke so kindly that Snow White finally believed her. As soon as she opened the door, the queen wrapped the ribbon tightly around Snow White until she could hardly breathe. Believing Snow White was dead, the queen hurried away. Luckily, the dwarfs returned home just in time. They cut the ribbon, and Snow White slowly opened her eyes. When the queen asked her mirror again, she was shocked to learn that Snow White had survived. This time, she disguised herself as an old woman selling beautiful combs. Snow White again trusted the stranger and accepted the comb. The moment the poisoned comb touched her hair, she collapsed. Once again, the dwarfs arrived home in time. They found the poisoned comb, removed it, and Snow White recovered. The queen's anger grew even stronger. She prepared her most dangerous trap, a shiny red apple poisoned on one side. Dressed once more as an old woman, she visited the cottage. Snow White hesitated, remembering the dwarfs' warning. To convince her, the queen cut the apple in half and ate the safe side herself. Snow White accepted the other half. The moment she took a bite, she fell to the ground, completely still. This time, the poison was so powerful that even the dwarfs could not wake her. The dwarfs were heartbroken. They cried for many days because they loved Snow White like a sister. Since she looked so peaceful, they could not bring themselves to bury her. Instead, they placed her inside a beautiful glass coffin decorated with flowers and placed it on a hill where they could always watch over her. Many months later, a handsome prince happened to ride through the forest. When he saw Snow White lying peacefully inside the glass coffin, he was deeply moved. The dwarfs told him her tragic story. The prince asked if he could take the coffin to his kingdom so that everyone could remember her kindness and beauty. As the prince's servants carefully carried the coffin, one of them accidentally stumbled over a rock. The sudden shake caused a small piece of poisoned apple stuck in Snow White's throat to come loose. She took a deep breath, opened her eyes, and slowly sat up. Everyone stood frozen in amazement before bursting into joyful cheers. The prince was overjoyed, and Snow White smiled with happiness. Soon afterward, they were married in a grand celebration attended by the 7 dwarfs and people from across the kingdom. Music filled the air, flowers covered the palace gardens, and everyone celebrated the triumph of kindness over jealousy. As for the wicked queen, her own jealousy became her greatest punishment. She lost everything she had chased for so long because beauty without kindness is empty. Snow White and the prince ruled the kingdom with wisdom, compassion, and love, while the 7 dwarfs remained their lifelong friends. And from that day forward, they all lived happily ever after.